Welcome to Meet the Candidates, a forum for candidates in the August 9th primary election for a 4-year term on Blaine City Council, Ward 1. The top 2 vote getters in this primary will be on the ballot in the general election November 8th. I'm Linda Rogers of the Anoka, Blaine, Coon Rapids Area League of Women Voters, who sponsor Meet the Candidates. I live in Anoka and cannot vote for either of these candidates. All candidates were invited to this forum. The League of Women Voters does not support or oppose any political parties or candidates for office. The League does help citizens become informed voters, and we advocate for important issues. This forum is about informing voters. If you're interested in the League, take a look at our webpage, LWV ABCMN.org. We invite people of all genders and young adults to join. The candidates will answer 2 introductory questions they received in advance, followed by questions submitted by the public via our website, and questions of importance to the League of Women Voters. We'll end with closing statements. Answers are limited to 90 seconds for each of the 2 introductory questions and 1 minute for each of the other questions, and candidates will take turns being the first to answer a question. Welcome to Blaine City Council Ward 1 candidates Tom Newland and Scott Rosochacki. We'll start the forum, logically, with the introductory questions. Starting with Tom Newland, what is your motivation to run for this office, and what experience or knowledge would help you to serve effectively?
Well, first, thank you, Linda, and the League of Women Voters for providing this forum. I have found them to be quite informative, and I hope that the rebroadcasts drive a lot of people to learn more about the candidates and get involved with the city and making good decisions about what's going to happen in the elections that are upcoming. In terms of what drove me to run, well, I currently sit right over there on the city council during meetings and have been a member of the city council for the last 2 months. I find it to be a phenomenal organization. There's a lot of wonderful people that are involved within City Hall that are sitting at this podium on the Monday night meetings, and the decisions that are made here affect all of us in Blaine. I've been involved in many organizations and many city and community aspects of the city of Blaine for, well, better than 2 decades now. I got deeply involved when I moved to Blaine 18 years ago. I've been a resident of Anoka County for over 40 years, living in Fridley, Coon Rapids, and now Blaine. And Blaine is a very dynamic city. There's a lot of positives going on, and the opportunities for this city to continue to move forward with the right people will make this an even better city to live, work, and play.
Thank you. Candidate Rosochacki.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for this opportunity, and for those tuning in for listening in to hear us speak. I have always grown up wanting to help people. When I was younger, I was in the Boy Scouts, and one of my favorite things to do was to perform service projects for the community. We would clean up highways, go to old folks' homes. We would go and rebuild houses in dire need. This led me to join the Navy out of college when I could, again, be of service and put those in front of me or be of greater service to those other than myself. Another thing, when I was in the Navy, I really wanted to learn many things, and I loved performing the service projects that we did in the Navy as well. Additionally, while in the Navy, I got my master's degree in criminal justice to understand the correctional system and its association within the community. When I was on shore duty in the Navy, I saved the taxpayers approximately $20 million in projects in a leadership position. And my final thing, I've been appointed to the Blaine sector for the Anoka-Hennepin Secondary Social Studies Committee. And as hopefully your next counselor, I will put all of these services that I have learned to better the city of Blaine.
And candidate Rosochacki, what are your goals for Blaine's future?
Thank you, Linda. My goals for Blaine's future are threefold. First, I want to help redesign our tax system here. A lot of politicians like to focus on symptoms rather than the underlying issue. So I want to flip the script on that and actually focus on the underlying issues, solve them, and then be able to save the people of Blaine money and reinvest it into the communities or return it to those citizens. Secondly, I will bring back unions to Blaine and help the middle-class workforce. Bringing back unions to Blaine will help by improving the quality of work, making sure roads last longer, all the infrastructure. It will also help cut down on wage theft and human trafficking. Finally, as a veteran, I want to bring a Veterans Affairs satellite hall to Blaine. Blaine has about a 5% homelessness population, and about half of those are veterans. I want to get them the health care they need, the mental health care they need to get them off the streets. It also has the added benefit of helping the surrounding communities, local businesses, where people are now afraid to go shopping in certain areas because of the high homelessness population. So I believe all these aspects can help Blaine prosper.
Candidate Newland, what are your goals for Blaine's future?
Well, thank you, Ed. First and foremost, almost every elected official in Anoka County and along Highway 65 is focused on Highway 65. Highway 65 needs attention. It's a safety issue. There are people getting killed on Highway 65, severely injured by businesses on Highway 65. I see emergency traffic. I see crashes incessantly along that road. Attention is being devoted to it. It's not just a city issue. It's a bigger issue than that. And with the city's involvement, which will start the project going on 99th and 65, because the city owns both sections on either side of 65, that money will help spur the redevelopment of Highway 65. So that's a key issue that everyone that I'm aware of, is focused on and attuned to. Other issues with 65, we just had a preliminary budget meeting on Monday night. The revenues that are increasing because of all of the development that have been taking place in the northeast corner in particular, as well as just the cost of homes and the like, has increased the property tax base by up to 23%, which gives the city an opportunity to, for the first time in a long time, to seriously consider and likely look at reducing taxes. So the expanding the pool of residents, of businesses, of everybody enables more people to share the cost of doing business and to, in fact, lower taxes. So those are probably the two biggest things that I would focus on in the coming months and years.
The next questions came from the public via our website. Once they came in, I grouped them by topic. And the questions that came in, the topics that emerged, were public safety, diversity, public involvement, transportation, unions, environment, and government's role and government's effectiveness. And we'll try and touch on each of those areas. We won't be able to get to every question that was submitted, but we'll do our best. We'll start with the topic of public safety. Candidate Newland, what does community safety mean to you?
First and foremost, it's having a strong emergency response department with both police and fire. They work hand in hand. Our police department is extraordinary. I was one of the founders of the Blaine Public Safety Administration. We raised money. We helped buy the first canine that came into the police department. And the police department has an extraordinary set of officers. We have a great executive staff. The chief is fantastic. Our job as a council is to give them the tools they need to be even more effective at the jobs that they have. Same with the fire department. make sure they've got the apparatus, the people, the personnel, the training to do their jobs as best as possible. And adapting what the police department is working on is specific to the city, but it's also the region and national. There are problems that are bigger than what the police department can work on, but they have the tools that they need to address them and to work collaboratively to ensure the city is safe. Keep going. Okay. So safety is an ongoing issue. We've got the phone ringing, so someone should answer that. But it's an ongoing concern with everybody. A strong, safe city makes this an even better place to live, to work, and to play.
Thank you. Okay, our technology problem has been solved.
For now.
And the same question to candidate Rosochacki. What does community safety mean to you?
Thank you, Linda. So community safety, to me, means that we invest and we understand our criminal justice system. Our criminal justice system, while it includes police and it is significantly important, we need to understand that the criminal justice system also has jails. Jails, which are located outside of the city of Blaine but are significantly important here, we need to understand reentry programs. We need to understand that while investing in police and getting them the supplies that they need, if we don't invest into reentry programs, we're putting those officers at risk. If we don't invest into certain educational programs, we're putting those officers at risk. As a citizen, I went on a ride-along to fully understand our police department, and they have spoken with me about how if they can handle certain aspects, but they shouldn't be required to handle everything. Putting such an overworked population such as the police force into a community without the resources they need into different aspects is just failing the police department and those officers.
And the next question, Scott Rosochacki will be the first to answer. What can the city do beyond policing to improve public safety?
Thank you, Linda. So as I was previously talking about, reentry programs from the prison system are or should be exceptional. We need to provide those coming out of that system the ability to be able to reenter our society safely and without having the pools to go back into the criminal justice system. Most people that get arrested or are in the prison system are repeat offenders. So if we invest in that, we can save money in that aspect, and we could also make our communities safer. Additionally, if we invest into the educational system, we can stop the school-to-prison pipeline. Education is one of the easiest and most effective means in stopping a high or an area of high criminality.
Thank you. And Tom Newland, what can the city do beyond policing?
Thank you for the question. The specific question is what the city can do. There are issues that are far beyond the reach of the city of Blaine. One of the biggest things the city can do is happening in about 2 weeks. It's the Night to Unite, when police officers, emergency responders, fire, people come out into the community. You have your neighborhood block parties. You get to know one another, and that's another key element is get to know your neighbors, get to interact with them. Make this city a community. It's where we all live. It's where we interact, where we can commute from, where we can shop. The more that we know one another, the safer we feel, the more we can watch out for one another. That's a vital portion of what community policing is all about, but it's the community acting as its own police, making sure that we are aware and looking out for one another. If we see something, say something, is the oldest adage that I can remember, and it's true, because there's so much that the community can do. If you're not comfortable with it, you can always call the police, they'll come out, but there's a lot more that the police do than just respond to emergencies. They interact with the community.
And candidate Newland, what strategies might City Council consider to eliminate human trafficking in Blaine?
Good question. The police officers, the patrol officers that are out there have training to recognize signs, recognize people, recognize situations where there may be something happening that's not obvious. The greatest training that the police officers can do in understanding human trafficking and what to look for will help them do their job and help all of us be aware of what's happening within this issue. And again, it's a bigger issue than just city-specific. There are issues that happen at the various hotels that we have. They can work with the hotel staff in recognizing when there's issues within that hotel that are abnormal, or there's more people coming and going, or there's youth that are maybe unaccompanied. There's something happening there, and if it doesn't pass the smell test, there's probably something afoul.
Thank you. And candidate Rosochacki, what strategies might City Council consider to eliminate human trafficking?
Thank you, Linda. So one of the ways that we can combat human trafficking here in Blaine, human trafficking is very prevalent in the construction industry. I have spoken with multiple people involved in the construction industry, specifically the carpenter's trades, and they have spoken with me at length that Blaine is the only city in this metro that is not involved in a council to be able to fight human trafficking. I want to get involved in that council. I want to be at the forefront of it to be able to fight that, to protect the people of Blaine. Additionally, human trafficking is more than just buying someone or not. It involves a lot of illegal drugs, especially in the construction trades. So if we are able to join this council to be very effective in fighting this, then we can make the citizens of Blaine safer, and then we can make those that come to the community much safer.
And candidate Rosochacki, the face of Blaine is changing. How will you be able to represent the various communities we find in Blaine today?
It's a very good question, Linda. Because the world is changing and ever will be changing, to be able to invest in certain communities, we need to go out and talk to the people. We need to be able to understand their cultures. We need to be able to understand where they have come from. I am a firm believer in understanding and talking to people before we judge them or we don't want to welcome them to a certain area like Blaine. Another thing that I really want to help out, or at least that I understand, is any time that the United States has invested into a certain community, we have grown stronger. One of the ways that I kind of view this is back in World War II, we had these people called the Wind Talkers. It was the Navajo Nation. And when we invested in them, America became greater. So if we invest into different communities, into different cultures, we're going to bring Blaine to new heights.
Candidate Newland, how will you be able to represent the various communities we find in Blaine today?
Great question. The world is changing. It's not just Blaine. There are portions of Blaine that are changing faster than others. Ward 1 has some residents that have been there for literally decades, and as they change their lifestyles, there's opportunities for different ethnicities to move in. Housing might be somewhat more affordable than other portions of Blaine. So that portion is changing, I believe, a little bit faster than some of the other areas. My street alone, I've got 4 different nationalities on a 1-block-long cul-de-sac. That, again, comes back to the National Night Out, the Night to Unite, where the more that you can learn about your neighbors, they might speak a different language, look a little bit different, they're all part of the same community. And the more we get to know one another, the more we, as a city and the city council, can help represent them. So this is an issue that will continue. I think it makes us all better.
And candidate Newland, if elected, what would you do to encourage diverse participation in city government?
Also a good question. Our police department has become more diverse. As I've looked at officers and interacted with them, it's not just a lily-white club of police officers. It's very diverse. A lot of female officers, a lot of different ethnicities, different names. That's critical for us as a city to ensure that the people that are interacting with residents maybe look like some of the residents. They might be more comfortable talking with them about issues that are arising. World Fest is an event that happens regularly here at City Hall and encourages different restaurants, different programs to come in. We can all learn about one another that way, and for us to then talk to those people, those participants, give them the opportunity to share with us who they are and what they think, what they believe in, that we can then learn from them and become an even better city, again, by working together.
Candidate Rosochacki, what would you do to encourage diverse participation in city government?
Great question. So, if elected, one of the things that I would like to do is to be able to have an internship program. I believe that for people to get involved in government, they have to understand government. So, I've talked with a lot of people during my door knocks, and they always look for ways to get involved, but no one knows how to get involved. So, if we are to establish an internship program with city councilors, with police officers, with any other aspect of government, we can encourage diversity here. Another aspect is to be able to get to know those diverse groups and be able to talk with them about government and how it can help them, how we can get involved and make their lives better. Because I strongly believe that if we put in the effort and put in the education, that we can become a greater community by having all of the diverse ethnicities work together.
And we're going to have a couple more questions about involvement. Candidate Rosochacki, as a member of City Council, how would you provide opportunities for constituents to let you know their concerns?
Good question. We do have many aspects to contact the City Council. There are phone numbers, there are emails, and we have all the meetings online, but this isn't enough. I have noticed many people, when I knock on their doors or I talk with them, they're surprised to see a city councilor at their door. They've never had a city councilor at their door. One of the two things that I really want to do is host a town hall in certain areas, in communities that are affected by decisions made by the city council, because those people deserve to have their answers or their questions answered. Another aspect is that I want to be able to set up meetings with them. I want to make myself available, put out maybe 1 or 2 hours where I'm just sitting there waiting for people to come talk to me, and put that out on social media or other aspects of the internet so that they know that I am available to hear their questions and their concerns.
Candidate Newland, how would you provide opportunities for constituents to let you know their concerns?
There are already a number of excellent means by which constituents can reach out to council members. I've learned that firsthand because I received numerous emails in the last 2 months that I've been on the council on at least a weekly basis. Some emails are sent to the entire council, including the city manager gets copied in it, or there are areas within the city that we will each get targeted with both council members' questions about issues that we can address. Open forum in front of the council meetings is a great opportunity for people to come forward and talk about whatever they would like to talk about. Bring it up, bring it to the concern of city staff, bring it to the concern of the city council so we can address it. Phone calls, I've received phone calls. My phone number is my personal cell phone number. I'll answer it and respond to it round the clock. So anybody that wants to reach out to city council has every opportunity to do so.
And more specifically, Candidate Newland, how will you advocate for public opinion to be honored in municipal projects? Examples would be the Northtown property, 105th Avenue.
Perfect. Northtown is a topic that we just spoke about on Monday night. Northtown is an area that will get attention. All the property owners with Northtown Mall, with Barnes & Noble site, I'm going to call it, their old Rainbow Food site, want to and need to see change. There are big spots in that area that have had vacancies for 8, 9, 10 years. It's calling for development. And some of the development needs to be done, actually all the development, especially where it's close to the perimeter where people live, needs to be done cautiously and carefully. There was a proposal that came forward for a multifamily development. The first step that the city council has put in for all those developments is to have a neighborhood meeting. Bring the concept forward, let's learn about it, but let's also ensure that the residents are plugged into it. Opinions, everybody has opinions. They're important to hear. Sometimes, though, 1 or 2 opinions don't necessarily reflect the opinions of everybody in the area. And to ensure that everyone has that opportunity to provide input is critical for the city council to continue to do a good job.
And Candidate Rosochacki, how will you advocate for public opinion to be honored in municipal projects?
Thank you. So public opinion in municipal projects are significantly important because these projects affect everyone in those areas. I strongly believe that we need to be in those areas. I know of very specific people that don't have access to internet, and they haven't been able to post their public opinions or even see the meetings where they need to give their public opinion. They don't even know of these meetings. So we need to constantly go door to door and talk to these people, make sure they know these things, send mailers. These are things that we need to make sure. I strongly believe that a city council or anyone in government is not meant to sit behind this table only. We are always meant to go engage the people. They are not meant to come and engage us as a first resort. It should always be a last resort. We should be the person that engages those people and gets their opinions.
And candidate Rosochacki, we're going to switch gears now and touch on transportation. Do you have any strategies for making public transportation more accessible to Blaine residents?
Great question. So public transportation is always kind of an issue because it exists on Highway 65 primarily, along with the side streets. A lot of local businesses are using their own public transportation essentially because the current metro is not getting workers to the areas as fast as required for them. So one of the things that I want to do is I want to talk to the Metro Transit Council and see what we can do there. Maybe we need to add more stops that would help and get people in certain areas to those local businesses so they can work. A few of the other ideas that I have is to add a bus lane. I understand that this is a long-term project, as with Highway 65, but it could absolutely help the traffic in that area by reducing the amount of cars and increasing the public transit system.
Candidate Newland, any strategies for making public transportation more accessible?
Let's go back to Highway 65 because that's going to continue to rise to the top of transportation issues. Highway 65 needs to be fixed, it needs to be safe, it needs to be something that people are comfortable riding upon. Other things that affect transportation, I know that development likes to go into an area where there are multifamily housing units, there's residential areas, that's where their work pool comes from, that's where their customer base comes from. That eliminates a lot of mass transit. They can literally walk, you can ride a bike, you can get very close to where your jobs and where your customer base is by putting the two hand in hand. They work phenomenally well together with synergies. Noka County Commuter Line is a local bus line that the county runs where it's the minibuses that go from point A to point B, works very well. The pathways that the city has will continue to be developed and taken care of, but transit and transportation is very important to all of us.
Thank you. And candidate Newland, when selecting printers, contractors, and manufactured goods, should the city consider their relationship with unions?
Unions are important, but printers specifically, I happen to be in the printing business, and so they shouldn't consider anybody other than me. And I say that somewhat unjust, but that is my business. Unions are critical to the operation of the city. The police department is operated by the police unions, law enforcement unions. Public Works is a union department. Those are the two biggest areas within the city. They're fully unionized. They do a phenomenal job. Should there be specific things carved out for any segment of the population, any segment of business? Not that I could see. I see that the city is, we're watching out for tax dollars. We're looking for where does the city get its biggest bang for the buck, literally. And we need to be aware of the bottom line. We need to learn how it's spent, where things are going. Anything above a certain dollar amount is bid out. There are contracts that come in, and whoever's the lowest bidder will likely get the contract for whatever it's going to be. But a specific target for a specific segment, I don't see that as being a critical part of the city.
Candidate Rosochacki, when selecting printers, contracts, and manufactured goods, should the city consider their relationship with unions?
Thank you. I strongly believe that we need to advocate for union membership here in Blaine. In 2014, the Anoka County Commission voted to remove prevailing wage. It has pushed out many unions, many local workers outside of Blaine, and the workers here have suffered because of it. One of the things that I would really like to do is to enshrine a prevailing wage in the city council charter. That way that we can actually allow unions to bid fairly on these projects. And these projects are much higher quality because the people that are in these unions live here. They care for this community. So if we invest into these unions, we're investing into the people here. Additionally, by not investing into unions, we're contracting out of state into other places. And then those contractors are taking their very large contracts, tens of millions of dollars outside of Blaine, where we could have used it here for tax revenue to invest into the people in education, in healthcare, in the housing market, just to be able to help people. And finally, the last possible thing that we can do is to help combat human trafficking and the drug trade, as I mentioned earlier with the construction trades.
And candidate Rosochacki, we're going to move to the topic of environment. As the largest city in Anoka County, Blaine has the chance to be a leader in sustainability and environmental issues. How can City Council make this a priority?
It's a very good question. I believe that the City Council can approach this in a few ways. One way is we can talk to local businesses and talk about their commitment to the environment. We can talk about how they can utilize solar panels on their businesses. Another aspect that we can talk about is using solar panels on newly built houses, which can reduce our carbon footprint. For the environment, one thing that we can do is focus on transportation as well. Highway 65 has been brought up multiple times during this debate. And if we fix Highway 65 in the proper manner, we can reduce our carbon footprint and we can improve the environment and the local communities.
Thank you. Candidate Newland, how can Blaine make sustainability and environmental issues a priority?
Great question. I came from the park board here in Blaine. It was my first entree into getting involved with government. Blaine's parks are extensive. They're everywhere. We've got 68 parks, give or take. Everyone has the opportunity, because there are neighborhood parks, there are regional parks, to enjoy Blaine's park amenities. There's also the wetland sanctuary that's been open. That's a huge area of wetlands that's protected to enable people to see and be exposed to wetlands. Blaine is a tree community. It's a tree city where there's as many things that can be written into development to protect our trees, keep as many as possible for future use. Blaine has an arborist that can make sure that our trees are protected from oak wilt, from all the diseases that can be spread. So the city is concerned about the environment and will continue to be forever.
And candidate Newland, we're moving on now. We had a smattering of questions about government's role, government's effectiveness. What infrastructure needs will you prioritize and why?
Two key infrastructure needs. One is roads, the second being water and sewer. Those are things we take for granted until they don't work, when there's a problem with them. The city's roadways, some are quite old, some are fairly new. The city is maintaining them. Potholes aren't always the answer to get repaired. A rebuild after 20 years of exposure to the elements, the sun, to the salt, to the sand that goes on them, to use over time, even on a street like mine that doesn't get a lot of traffic, it's now coming on 20 some odd years, and you can see where there's wear and tear. To maintain the roads and streets is critical. Water and sewer, same thing. When the water issues went out a couple years ago and we lost water for twice within about 6 weeks, we realized how important it is to keep that portion of infrastructure going. Same with the internet, same with ensuring that people have access to that so we can communicate via more than just the telephone. We can communicate face-to-face as well as utilizing those tools that are existing.
And candidate Rosochacki, what infrastructure needs will you prioritize?
So I strongly believe in prioritizing our base infrastructure here in Blaine. We have constantly talked about roads here. That is a very large priority. One road where I live has not been fixed in 65 years. One of the things that I plan on doing is creating a tracking system so that no corner of Blaine is left behind in that manner. No area should be left alone for over 60 years. Additionally, I want to invest in electricity, in piping, in sewage. I've talked with local businesses that are curious about Blaine, and they're scared because they don't trust the current system in the areas that they can invest in, specifically around Northtown. If we invest in those base infrastructures, then we can attract local businesses, we can bring more tax revenue to Blaine, and we can help the people here thrive rather than struggle.
And candidate Rosochacki, how can Blaine City Council work with Anoka County, the board, to provide more funding for public libraries?
It's a very, very good question. I am a fan of libraries. One thing that we can do is something that I learned in my time in the Navy, and it's communication. We need to be able to understand who to talk to be able to get these investments. If people are asking for libraries, then we need to take that seriously. One library that I know of is struggling to find books. They struggle sometimes with their meetings. We need to be able to reach out to them and be able to give them the supplies that they need or help with their concerns. So to reiterate my point, I strongly believe in communication, and that way we can assist the community.
Candidate Rosochacki, another potpourri item here. How can the community support our veterans, and what role should Blaine play in how they come home after serving?
It's a very good question, and I appreciate it. As a veteran, I know how hard it can be to transfer from military to civilian service. There are, as I mentioned previously, a lot of homeless veterans here. We need to invest in a Veterans Affairs satellite hall, which is like a local clinic here. We can get them the health care they need, the mental health care they need to get off the street. Additionally, when coming from the military to the civilian service, there's this thing called a Veteran Service Office. This supplies our veterans with the ability to understand housing, to get jobs, to be able to understand all the benefits that they need to reintegrate into the society. And Blaine talks about how they love their veterans, and it's very much appreciated, especially with the bench dedication. But we have a VFW, and it's not enough, in my opinion. So if we invest in those two buildings, we can help our veterans thrive.
Thank you. And candidate Newland, how can the community support our veterans?
Great question. One of the most rewarding organizations I was involved with was starting up and getting our Blaine Beyond the Yellow Ribbon Committee and Focus accredited by the state government. It brought so many aspects of the city together. The first meeting held downstairs here had over 60 people from every possible walk of life to want to reach out and help our veterans. It narrowed down to various committees. I was fortunate to be co-chair of one of those committees. It was a long process before we actually achieved accreditation because there were numerous hurdles that we were held to a standard to leap through. We did it, and when we were recognized at the St. Paul Saints game by Governor Dayton, being called on to the Target Field Twins game by the staff there to recognize all the things that we had done, remarkably rewarding experience to be a part of. Out front, we've got the Veterans Memorial. Anything they've ever asked that my business has been able to donate to them, we've done. Great organizations.
Thank you. And candidate Newland, sort of expanding on that possible role of the city in general, is there a role for the city in mental health of its residents?
There's a role for the city in almost any aspect of the community. Some of these issues are much larger than they should be city-specific. There are county-specific programs, there's statewide, there's obviously federal programs. In terms of what specifically would the city do in terms of social issue training for our police departments. That's a huge issue that affects the people that our law enforcement officers have contact with every day with the calls that they are dealing with. There are issues that are out there that carry into what our law enforcement people are doing. But beyond having our own department to deal with these, with things that the county is already doing, that the state are doing, we can partner with those governmental entities because those issues are much larger than they would be just for in the city. But we can work together and collaborate and find some of the solutions to tackle with these bigger issues.
Candidate Rosochacki, do you see a role for the city in mental health?
Yes, I do. One thing that I've realized sitting on the Secondary Social Studies Committee for the Anoka-Hennepin schools is that our students are struggling. They hosted a forum where the students talked to us and the methods in which they're struggling. So the city has not only the ability, but the requirement to help out our students and invest in mental health care within our schools. Additionally, we need to also invest in mental health care outside of our schools. Many of our citizens are scared because of certain aspects that are much larger than Blaine. But if we take care of that, if we invest in the mental health care, we can make our community much safer. Additionally, our police are overtaxed for what they have to interact with. So if we allow make our budget a priority to invest in mental health care, then we can help our police as well as our citizens.
Thank you. Our time is coming to a close, but we'd like to end with a lighthearted question here before closing statements. So, Candidate Rosochacki, what is your favorite place to go to in Blaine?
Ooh, oh man. Favorite place to go to in Blaine? Well, I have definitely walked many different aspects of Blaine. I really do enjoy Aquatoire Park. That's a place that I've come to know and love. I enjoy watching the dogs there. I enjoy walking there. It just kind of has a very peaceful aspect to it. And it's something that I appreciate about Blaine and all of its multiple parks, but I must say Aquatoire is my favorite.
Candidate Newland, your favorite place?
At the risk of providing a pat answer, it's right here. Blaine City Hall is the most interesting place I have had the opportunity to spend many years, many days, many meetings with many different people. There is so much happening here. I've been involved in a lot of different things with the city for years. I thought I knew the city inside and out. You start spending full time here, practically it seems, you learn all the things you don't know. And what happens within this building has a lot of impact for what happens out there within the city. So I love it. Every opportunity I have to come in here, now that the City Hall is reopened, it was closed for quite some time with the COVID impact, it's a pleasure to come here and to meet some of the skilled, talented people that have such an impact on all of our lives as residents, as business owners, as people that come here to live, work, and play. This is a great city, it's a great building, and we have great opportunities here.
And Candidate Newland, your closing statement.
Again, Tom Newland, I've been a part of this city as a resident for 18 years. I own a business that's in Blaine. I've owned the business for 29 years. I've been a part of this city, the fabric of what happens within it for quite some time. My experiences make everything more interesting, more exciting, more opportunities that I've seen from where the city has been to where it is now for where it's going to go and where it's going to grow and where our opportunities for a city's involvement to get involved in some of the issues. It's not necessarily looking at big picture things. There's impacts that we can have by being a part of the big picture, but specific things for our residents, who are the people that we serve. Those are the ones that we can talk to daily, we interact with. Neighbors on my street, neighbors in the community, neighbors that I don't necessarily know that we can have outreach to. Anybody that I have an opportunity to speak with, to talk to, we have the opportunity to change, to impact with them, and I look forward to continuing to serve the city with the results of the primary and hopefully the general election in November.
And candidate Rosochacki, your closing statement.
Thank you. So Scott Rosochacki, as we've talked about, there are many issues in Blaine that the citizens are concerned about, and I cannot wait to continue this process. I have knocked on many doors. I have talked with many citizens of Blaine. I have enjoyed meeting every single one of them, understanding their concerns. One of the things that I am really hoping to do in the future is to enshrine kind of the integrity, accountability that I have learned from the Navy here and bring it to Blaine and be able to serve the people of Blaine. Again, thank you, and I look forward to meeting more of you on the campaign trail, and I hope for your vote on August 9th and hopefully on November 8th as well. Thank you.
And thank you to both our candidates, Tom Newland and Scott Rosochacki, for speaking to voters about issues and for running in the election for Blaine City Council, Ward 1. Thanks to NorthMetro for their video production. And thanks, viewers, for your interest in becoming informed voters. As we move through the election season, link to all our local election forums at LWV ABC MN.org, as well as the NorthMetro website and YouTube. If you have questions left unanswered by this forum, contact the candidates directly. To register to vote or to update your registration, go to mnvotes.org. That's mnvotes.org. There's so much there. You can also register when you go to vote at the polls. Make your voice heard in the primary election by voting on or before August 9th.